Hey guys, it's SKdaGamer here, and welcome to Angels with Scaly Wings. This is a very different game to what I usually play here, but I got recommended it by a couple people, and it sounds interesting. Well, let's get a start, shall we? As usual. Only recently has humanity discovered a portal that leads into a different world, populated with a race of intelligent talking dragons. I was one of the few to travel to this world. But maybe I should start at the beginning. It all began when we discovered a strange device in the middle of nowhere during one of our expeditions. A portal. I had heard about similar technology before, though that had been more on an experimental level. From what I knew, other portals had been created in the past and were under consideration for mass application. As for this one in particular, though, we did not know who had built it, nor when, or why we found it in the wilderness where we did. What was more exciting to us was the fact that it was functional. After a first test, we found there was someone else on the other side who was in possession of a similar portal, and our attempts at communication through letters were successful. But in the end, the machine's extraordinary demand for power meant we needed to act quickly, as we weren't able to keep the portal open much longer. When we made this known to the other side, we received a very unexpected reply, a letter of invitation. After some deliberation, it was decided to accept their hospitality and send a person to the other side. There was an individual who took the job almost immediately. Alright, sure. I knew him. Or rather had known him. We attended the same school back then, and even had a few classes together. We never really were very close friends, but we talked to each other occasionally and hung around with the same crowd sometimes. However, we still went our separate ways in the end. I wasn't sure what to think about the whole thing, but he had to have known what he was doing. He certainly was brave. While I wasn't sure which, his courage was applauded by others. After all, he couldn't possibly have known who or what could await him at the other end of the portal, and if he did meet someone there, who knew what kinds of intentions they may have. Go away! While I wasn't sure which, his courage was applauded by others. After all, he couldn't possibly have known who or what could await him at the other end of the portal, and if he did meet someone there, who knew what kinds of intentions they might have. Not that any speculation on our part would have made a difference. When the day finally came, through he went, with applause echoing across the area, equipped only with the clothes he wore, his multi-tool, a gun, and a device on his wrist that acted as a PDA. Then we waited. The crowd that was applauding him slowly dispersed when the enthusiasm died down, as there was nothing for us to do but wait and speculate. Approximately 8 hours later, we received our first message from him. While we had assumed the portal led to another in a different country, or maybe on a different continent, the reality turned out to be much more foreign. The situation he described to us was so outlandish that we initially took it as a joke. It soon became clear to us, though, that we may have just made one of the most important discoveries since the dawn of mankind. Finding the portal had been remarkable in itself, but this took it to a completely different level. From what he described about the place, more accurately, its inhabitants, we surmised it could not be a part of Earth at all. We called them dragons, because according to Razor, that's what they were, or at least what they resembled most. Even though we found it hard to believe, it had been these dragons who had sent us all the letters, and what Razor found on the other side of the portal was a whole civilization of them. They could talk, write books, had buildings and electricity. In many ways, their society was actually very similar to our own. So who were they? And where was this place? Could they be aliens? Our speculations led us to conclude otherwise. After all, we knew about the existence of thousands of planets, millions of light years away, that may have been theoretically habitable. Yet even then, we had never found conclusive proof in regards to actual alien life forms. Some people brought up quantum mechanics and parallel universes. But in the end, all of this was just conjecture, an ultimately fruitless endeavour, since we neither had the means nor the resources to explore these possibilities in greater detail. The previous isolation had been mutual. They hadn't known about any other intelligent life form beyond their own. Their portal had only been recently been discovered and was a technology previously unknown to them. And just as we had myths about dragons, they had myths about us. Razor apparently was sure of what he was doing, though as he eventually let us know that they had agreed on a trade. We were to give them a few of our PDA devices, which contained vast amounts of knowledge. In return, they would supply us with generators. Overall, they didn't seem as technology advanced as we had been, but they did surpass us in one aspect. Their means of generating energy seemed sustainable. Not only that, but evidently also quite different. We certainly would also be able to put technology like that to good use, and trading mere past knowledge of the human race for something more tangible was a good call on his part. That was where I came in. My prior experience in both biology and sociology made me a good fit to deliver our PDA devices for the trade, and while in the Dragon's world, waiting for the prototypes of our generators to be manufactured by them, I would act as an ambassador on humanity's behalf. What a way to make a first impression by a display of mutual goodwill. Everyone benefits and everyone goes home happy. All is well. At least, that was the plan. Despite the images that living, talking dragons might conjure up in some people's minds, I didn't even think of bringing a weapon myself, considering that they were reportedly friendly and peaceful enough. There was no need for me to fear potential ill intentions like Razor did when he had stepped into unknown territory, and acting as humanity's ambassador, I had to do my best to uphold a high standard in fostering this diplomatic relationship. When the time came for me to step through the portal, all my mental preparedness vanished. My anxiousness was fueled by all the questions lurking in my head, just as the machine started to do its work. What if they really weren't so friendly, and just made Razor write those letters, with the pretense of appearing friendly, only to lure us into the den of man-eating monsters and certain doom, with us ending up as nothing more than a tasty afternoon snack? Maybe I should have brought a weapon after all. Suddenly, I felt a shiver coursing throughout my whole body, and beyond when I disintegrated, as if every cell, every atom of my body was torn from me and pulled into a different direction. This is interesting so far. Kinda like it. I saw darkness and light, painting patterns in the stars as I travelled, and images rapidly flashed before me of things unseen and unspoken. Both horrifying and beautiful, it was an experience unlike any other, yet over in just a split second. Then it was dark. I could only see a patch of lighter colour contrasting with its dark surroundings as my vision started to clear. Its edges got sharper as the patch of light slowly took shape, giving me the distinguished outline of a reptilian head and an array of horns sprouting from it. It was a dragon. As I could now see, a dragon who not only had a pair of round glasses, but also wore a burgundy tie around its neck. In the name of our people, I bid you welcome. If I may introduce myself, I am Remy, your guide and ambassador, a representative of our council. The dragon spoke. It was one thing to have heard and read about this, but something else entirely to have one standing in front of me, in flesh and blood, and tongue. It was good that all my mental preparedness had disappeared when I was teleported, because nothing could have prepared me for this. Sorry, I imagine you might still feel the effects of the teleportation. Drowsiness or weakness is not unusual, as is fainting and spontaneous emptying of your bowels, bladder or stomach. How do you feel? Rendered speechless, I had totally forgotten that I was shouldering the burden of representing my people to them as well. So much for being professional, but at least they gave me a good excuse for my blunder. I think I'm alright. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Maybe we should go before it gets too dark. Come with me, please. So I followed the dragon, not straying too far from him, as the sun had already departed from the day, and the remaining light diminished by the minute. It is getting hard to see where I'm going. Sorry about that, but we had a good reason to schedule your arrival like this. We did not want you to be ambushed by a crowd, so we had to keep your exact time and date of arrival secret. Thanks. I suppose an event like this would make me a celebrity of sorts. It would be the same if one of you came to us. It's quite an understatement. Some people here are rather superstitious. They might regard you or any of your kind as divine, I suppose. Really? How so? We do have certain myths that involve humans, and as such, I suppose the history lesson will have to wait for another time. Here we are. By this point it had gotten so dark that I could barely make out the building before us. I briefly wondered whether they might have streetlights elsewhere, or if they just did not require any due to possible enhanced eyesight or night vision. I could vaguely see the dragon, his light colour still visible within the blackness that engulfed the area, rear up and manipulate the door handle with one of his forepaws. Hinges creaking, the door opened, and with the flick of a switch the apartment was flooded with light, blinding me after all the time we had just spent without it. This is where you will live for the time being. It is fully stocked, but in case you need anything else, I left you a note with a few phone numbers. It is getting rather late, so I'll have to take my leave now. In any case, someone will come and meet you tomorrow morning. Thank you, Remy. Have a good night. Until we meet again. With a nod, Remy left the apartment, mindful enough to close the door behind himself. Surveying the room, I considered the events that had just transpired as my gaze met the window. I could see movement outside, and as I drew nearer, startled, I could hear footsteps in the grass, moving away quickly. Assuming it must have been the dragon I just met, I thought nothing of it as I went to bed and slowly succumbed to the sweet allure of sleep overdue. I spent a few moments thinking about my role, my mission, and what it meant to be here now. Now we can pick stuff. This is actually kind of cool. Very different to what I'm used to. I've played one visual novel game, which was Tiny Bunny. That was pretty fun. That was just a short 1 hour experience. I haven't played like a full one like this yet. I don't know how long this one will be. So yeah. This might be a bit of a longer video because of course it's a visual novel, a lot of reading, a lot of important stuff. Might be a bit slower, but I'm really liking the idea of this already. When I was first told about this game, I thought it was just like dragons in a dragon world. I didn't realize there was a whole human dragon alternate world interacting thing. So I kind of like that. The whole, we have to be like, we're ambassadors and stuff. I like it. Let's go. I was eager for the adventure to come. So many possibilities and prospects raced through my mind. Truth be told, the thought of being able to meet an entirely new species and civilization excited me, as I was going to be one of the first to truly experience their society with its own little quirks, differences, and similarities. I couldn't help but feel like some sort of modern Vasco da Gama or Marco Polo. Maybe I would even write a book about the whole experience after it's all over. I was sure it would become a hit, all things considered. At any rate, this was going to be fun. Oh. It's chapter 1. Deception. I love the sound and the music in this game as well, especially the music. That little ambient bit in that intro section was really interesting. I really liked it. I awoke from uneasy dreams looking at an unfamiliar ceiling. Just for a moment, I wondered where I was before the events of last night all came back to me. After a good stretch, I searched around the room illuminated by the sunlight coming in from the window. Outside in the distance, the portal I had emerged from proudly stood on the peak of a small hill. Getting ready, I noticed something lying on the table. It was the note Remy had left for me in case I needed anything, along with his own home phone and work number. There were also some numbers for delivery of food and other necessities, as well as emergency and even janitorial services. He had certainly thought of everything, even though I now had to wonder what a dragon plumber might look like. My musings were interrupted when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was met by another dragon. Hello, you must be Smams. I'm Sebastian and I'll be your escort, or security, I suppose. Usually I work for the police though. Nice to meet you. He seemed a lot smaller than Remy, and when he somewhat nervously extended his arm towards me, I noticed he apparently only walked on his hind legs, the two forelimbs instead of having distinct arms, hands and fingers. Oh, so, okay. So some are anthro, some are quadruped. Shake his... Kiss his hand! What the heck? What the heck? Well, I'll shake his hand. I'll be a good, kind ambassador. When I took his hand into mine to shake it gently, I could feel the individual bumps and scales on his rough skin. Nice to meet you too, Sebastian. So where are you taking me? Straight to business, eh? We're going to visit the plant where they are making your generators. They have some news for you, or so I've heard. Razor will be there too. Sounds great. Just follow me. Kiss his hand. What the heck? Just like the second dragon you've ever met, the first, well, second human that the other dragons have ever met. He just kisses his hand, starts shaking. What the frick? While we walked, I was under the impression we were purposely avoiding the busier parts of the town, instead staying towards the edges and small alleys as to not garner too much attention. Even then we got the occasional stare. What is occasional? After just a couple minutes we arrived at our destination where we were met by Razor, as well as yet another dragon, a vicious looking beast that didn't stay too close to him. Ooh, I like his design. Hey, Razor, long time no see. How true that is. Good to finally see another human face around here. What a coincidence to have you of all people show up. Yeah, I guess those degrees aren't so useless after all. Feel like the pictures are too small, like there's a lot of blank space up here. By the way, who's your friend? Just my bodyguard, same as yours. Don't bother with him, he doesn't talk much. Let's go, he looks grumpy. Because he does. That's what he always looks like. And yes, that does mean he's always grumpy. The two dragons exchanged a few words, and as I met the gaze of the larger, tenebrous dragon a few paces from us, Sebastian turned towards me and spoke up again. Hey Smams, this is Maverick. Nice to meet you. Yeah, whatever, don't expect me to give you any special treatment like everyone else's and we'll be good. What are you talking about? So you're saying you haven't noticed the stairs and how they all treat you like you're the next messiah or something? No, I just thought... We're not the ones making a big deal out of this, you are. We're just here to get what we agreed on, and then we'll be gone. If anything, I'd actually prefer if you left us alone, but you're the one who insists on following me around wherever I go. A growl escaped the darker dragon's trembling lips as he bared his teeth at Razor. Alright, that's quite enough. Let's just all go inside already, shall we? After you. I like the art style of this too, this is pretty nice. The crisis was quickly averted as we entered the building, which was characterized by its many floors, high ceilings, and long narrow hallways as Sebastian led us to our destination. There you are, I was waiting for you. Wait a minute, I thought we were going to meet the guys from production. What are you doing here? They're only coming in later today, so you'll just have to make do with me. I see. Well, Smams, this is Anna. She kinda manages this building, although actually she's more involved with the research wing rather than production and engineering. Nice to meet you. My pleasure. I have something for you, by the way. It'll take them a while to make all the generators we promised, but we've got one for you here. Feel free to send it home and give it a test. That's great, I'll take it. Just raise like, whoop! He yeets himself in the middle of the conversation. Looks a little small if you ask me. Don't underestimate its power. Oh, and do be careful not to drop it. Sure, I'll be waiting outside while you do your thing, Smams. I suppose I'll wait for you outside as well. What thing? So by the looks of it, there's quadrupeds and bipeds. The bipeds don't appear to have wings either. Interesting. Oh, have you brought the PDA? Of course, here you go. Alright, now to give this thing a test run. The PDA lit up as her hands swiftly moved around its interface and calculated motions. By the way, would you consider letting me run some tests on you as well? It would only take a drop of your blood. What? Why? I work in biology, so obviously this kind of thing would be very interesting to us. I'd share the results with you, of course. I haven't even spent a full day here yet, and already I've got dragons asking me for my blood samples. Yeah, no. That's a shame. Not yet. Give me a couple days. Looks like your PDA is good, by the way, so we're just about done here. And since we're both in biology, it could be interesting if you want to meet me some other time as well. Here's my number. Alright. Plink. See you soon. Well, that was interesting. Did she ask you for your blood too? Yeah. Did you give it to her? Should I lie and say yes? I would have thought that saying no the first time would change the dialogue this time around, but what happens if I say yes? Oh well, it's your choice. Okay. I feel like he'd say the same thing either way. We got no idea what they might do with it though. I'm getting hungry, how about some breakfast? I'm all for it. I can't stand early mornings like this. That shouldn't be a problem. There's a cafe not far from here. What do you say, Mavers? Mavers. Luckily for us, the cafe was mostly empty when we arrived, as it was still pretty early in the day. Razor was quick to lead me to a table for two, prompting the dragons to get one of their own at the other side of the restaurant. Yeah, I feel like this doesn't really suit the quadruped dragons with the way the tables and chairs are laid out. I feel like we need larger areas for the quadrupeds so they can actually sit. I think those chairs would be rather uncomfortable for them. Ugh, finally, I can't stand being that guy being on my tail all the time. Seems rather strange that they need someone following us anywhere. Yeah, I'm not buying their shtick about how it's to keep us safe. We were approached by an individual who appeared to be the waitress of the cafe. She was an interesting looking dragon who, unlike the others I'd seen so far, was more akin to a wyvern, possessing two rather large wings as her forelimbs, which resembled those of an oversized bat. Oh, it's the humans. You were able to correctly identify our species based on what we look like. Congratulations. I love that remark. That is great. That's a good one. Welcome to our establishment. My name's Adine and I will be your waitress today. What can I bring you to? Let's go scrambled eggs with bacon. As I was saying, if you look at the big picture, don't you think there's just something off about this whole place? Where is it really? If this is supposed to be a completely separate place from Earth, or even a different dimension, some things just don't add up. Don't you think so too? I'm just gonna go, I'm not sure. I can't really say much more with you know who over there. He's probably listening to us right now. He's a charming fellow. When I let my gaze wander, I saw that Maverick was looking in my direction. Our eyes met briefly, his expression not showing any discernible emotion, while I wondered whether it had been a coincidence or if he really was able to hear us from the distance. Well, I do have some theories, and if I'm right, we might be in trouble. What kind of trouble? What are you talking about? Shush, be quiet. I'll let you know more as soon as I can. But for now, let's just play along, after we already have one of these babies. He patted the generator's box for emphasis. God knows we need them. Oh, here she comes. The female returned, astounding me with her ability to balance the dishes on the edges of her wings. She placed her forelimb on the table and proceeded to move the dishes from her wing to us with a gentle push of her snout. There you go, enjoy. Now shoo, Scaly Face. Oh my gosh! We still have a job to do here as an ambassador. Let's still be nice and professional. You're welcome. Shoo, Scaly Face. I was wondering what kind of breakfast could be had in a place like this, but I was pleasantly surprised to find it quite as I was used to. The only real difference was that they apparently don't use cutlery. I'll send you a letter with a coded message later. You'll know what to do. Razor rose from his seat before he made it known to me that he still had a few things to do and left the restaurant, followed shortly after by the larger of the two dragons. He didn't eat! You didn't eat your food! Not that this whole situation was already bizarre enough. There was also now the vague sense of danger conveyed by Razor's earlier words. I did not even have an idea what kind of threat might be lurking out there. Eventually I got up, ready to be on my way for whatever else the day might bring. Are you done? Sure am. How'd you like it? It was alright. Just small talk, as you do. Just small talk is just very awkward, like they don't know how to talk to us. Ah, the piano's back. I love this track. I love it a lot. It's great. I stepped outside, taking in the scenery of this strangely familiar world. In the short time I was here, I had already found the similarities between their world and our own utterly fascinating. After all, we were talking about an unmapped place with a never-before-seen form of life. As far as discoveries were concerned, even something as simple as a new Please, for a video where I actually need to read, can I please English? As far as discoveries were concerned, even something as simple as a new unicellular organism or even bacteria would have been remarkable. Yet here I was, standing in the middle of a village evidently built by this race of intelligent, talking dragons, with a society not unlike our own. Razor didn't seem to share the same interest, and instead was more smitten with the generator. But given our reasons for coming here in the first place, I couldn't blame him for his enthusiasm being focused on something else. My thoughts were interrupted as something suddenly zipped past me just a little too close, causing me to stumble back. It was a rather small dragon with a bag clamped in its maw who apparently had somewhere to be. Nyom! I regained my footing and watched as it disappeared into the distance. Even though I'd seen enough dragons to recognize their variations in size, color, and other attributes, I guess this one must have been a juvenile of its species. Shortly afterwards, Sebastian joined me outside, having taken care of the tab. I gave her a generous tip on your behalf. I hope you don't mind. Nah, of course not, as long as I don't have to pay the bill. Don't worry about it. In any case, now that you've given us the PDA and Razor as a generator, you're free for today. So if you want to go anywhere in particular, let me know, or I could show you around town. I was tempted to be given a tour, but considering Razor's words, I wanted to be careful and not stray too far without knowing more about this world first. I think I'll stay home for today. I still have to get used to everything, you know. I'll just accompany you back then. I mean, I've just entered a world full of completely different creatures, like mythical creatures. So it kind of makes sense that you'd even just half a day spent out is quite a lot, considering the fact that, you know, you're surrounded by a completely new species. Well, if you need anything, I'll be outside until my shift ends. Otherwise, see you tomorrow. Thanks, see you tomorrow. See ya. That was very drawn out, that goodbye. Oh, guitar music! I hadn't really looked at the guitar. Oh my god! What a first visual novel video! I cannot English today. What the flip? I hadn't really looked at the apartment that much, so I spent the rest of the day investigating it and relaxing. I considered checking out some of the phone numbers Remy had left me, but I thought it was better to keep a low profile for now. I found the kitchen fully stocked with plenty of groceries, though the variety was wasted on me. I hadn't been a particularly great cook in the first place, but what was more, I didn't even recognize some of the things I found there. Whether they were edibles that we had back home that I just didn't know about, or something completely alien, I wasn't sure, but I didn't want to take the risk of eating anything I didn't know. After all, it was possible that some of the comestibles might be fine for them to eat, but still be poisonous for us. I was also glad to find a shelf that was filled to the brim with a variety of books. While I found the subject matter of man, myth or reality to be quite intriguing, I had to give up after just a few pages due to its exceptionally dry writing style, which I wasn't inclined to enjoy at the moment. In the end, I settled for an adventure novel about a dragon archaeologist who stumbles upon the remains of a long-lost human civilization, after which she is hunted by an evil organization who wants to use the found magical artifacts for its own nefarious purposes. While entertaining, I had to admit that it reminded me a little too much of the trashy novels we had at home. I was reading a particularly interesting scene when I suddenly heard the doorbell ring. Ding dong! Oh, little dragon. Hello there, would you please sign here? For what? I'm not signing away my rights with this, am I? Looking over the clipboard the small dragon was holding up to me, I saw that the sender of the letter in question was Razor. Okay, there you go. It didn't even read it! You just signed a contract that you didn't even read. I'm Lauren Ipsum, by the way. Would you mind if I ask you a few questions? What is this about? Sebastian just shows up. I'm just making small talk. Wait a minute, I recognize you. You tried to do the same thing with Razor. Maybe I should report you to your superiors for your inappropriate behavior towards your clients. But it's important! Please just let me talk to Smams for a few minutes. You know how it is, if you want an interview with one of the humans, you'll have to get permission from the proper authorities. Help me out here, Smams. As an ambassador, you care about the accurate portrayal of humans in the media, don't... Accurate portrayal of humans in the media! Oh no! then you should talk to me. Otherwise, someone else will fill in the blanks and who knows what they will come up with. I mean, you're not wrong. But also, you could bend my words and make it rather suspicious as well. Let me show you something. The small dragon opened his bag, rummaging through a number of letters in small packages. I think I lost it. Anyway, I wanted to show you some pictures of what people think humans look like. On some of them, they have 4 heads and look nothing like you. It's crazy. That's kind of interesting. That like the idea of a mythical creature could, like, if they actually existed, they could be very different to the designs we have in mind. Like, say, what if these dragons here looked nothing like the draconic design that we are used to? I'm getting sidetracked. What are you, Lauren? A reporter? No, I'm just... Do you want me to remove him, Smams? Is what he is saying true? Yeah, I guess. I see, that sounds pretty interesting though. Right, you can leave your number here and maybe I'll call you later, but that's all I can promise. He quickly produced a small sheet of paper and scribbled his number on it. Afterwards, he sheepishly presented it with both hands. I still have a note on the table that Remy left me with a bunch of numbers. You could just put it there instead of giving me another piece of paper. With all the commotion, I almost forgot I was still holding on to Razor's letter. Within the plain envelope was a similarly plain sheet of paper with his handwriting. When I started reading, however, I saw that his wording was so full of the pleasantries I knew he hated, and that I assumed every word of it was faked as to conceal his true intent. He did mention I'd know what to do, but I was unsure of how I was supposed to decode the letter's secret message. I don't even remember having a conversation about this topic with him, yet he still relied on me to remember what it was that I was missing. Or he thought I would just be able to figure it out on my own. This is what it said. Hello, my dear friend. I hope this letter reached you swiftly and in good condition. Unfortunately, we were not able to catch up earlier, so I wanted to write you this letter. How have you been these last few years? What have you been doing? How's the family? I feel there is so much we could talk about, since we have not seen each other much recently. At least we have a chance to do so in this form. Quite an exciting adventure we are on now, right? How have you liked it here so far? Made any dragon friends yet? Anyways, I will be looking forward to your reply soon. Best regards, Razor. Various things came to mind, only reading certain words or letters was one that I thought of immediately, but I couldn't make out anything after trying to find a system within its array of letters and lines. Maybe I had to look more carefully. Read between the lines. Lines, of course. Maybe I was supposed to read between them. I didn't have an implement on me with which I would have been able to read fine print. Though with this handwritten letter, I doubted Razor would have done anything of the sort. Right, look elsewhere for hints. Or maybe he referred to the fact that we were both given an apartment. Considering the things they provided for us, maybe I just had to find the right object to decode the message. There were many everyday items here though, and of course I still had no idea in particular what I was looking for. Let's look at the bookshelf. The bookshelf was stocked with quite a variety of books on different topics. Look at an individual book. Maybe it has something to do with books. The shelf is full of them, but I suppose the hint could be hidden inside of one of them. Ooh! Lots of different books to go. This is very in-depth. This is well thought out. Let's go. Let's go top to bottom. Let's have a look at this. Maybe Razor left me another message here at some point. He could have known that I was going to live here, so I suppose it is possible that he helped with the preparations and had something for me to find. Sounds like... Okay, that didn't sound like books. That sounded like pieces of paper. It sounded like there was a note in there, but okay, there apparently isn't. But even if Razor did leave a hint, this could have been anywhere in the apartment, and not just on this bookshelf. Go back, let's go to the bathroom. Look inside the cabinet. No razors, there are some pain meds though. Take some! I'm not sure this is a good idea, but here we go. I can take more! Again, alright. I'm feeling strange. Take some more! It's a first one! All the music stopped. What did I do? What did I do? Oh, I thought it was gonna unlock some other part of the story, like I was found unconscious in the bathroom or something. I mean, that's a cool little bit, but I feel like they could have done something with that bit. How long was I gone? And why did I think eating a whole bottle of pain medication would somehow help with my surge? You took some pain medication. This is not a good idea. I got an achievement from that. Look inside the shampoo. No shampoo to be found anywhere, of course. And no hint either, just some body wash. Well, I guess we just got the kitchen now. Look in the fridge. Plenty of stuff in here. Just look at the meat. It's just a slab of meat, nothing special about it. It's probably not even cooked, so yeah. Crack open an egg and look inside of an egg. Just a regular egg. What did you think would happen if you just cracked open an egg? Look in the pantry, just some fruits and veggies here. What should I look at? Date. If I put it on the floor and step on it, what would happen? I did not play this game for stupid punny jokes. You learn a lot about fruits. Thanks, they were all puns. Lemons, of course. Why didn't I realize it sooner? Lemon juice is about the simplest way to write a hidden message using household items. We learned about that in chemistry. In the most boring detail, of course. A message written in lemon juice on paper becomes just almost invisible to the naked eye when dried, but after heating it gently, oxidation occurs, making the message visible. I was sitting next to him in class when we learned that. He made a joke about using the method to cheat on the next test, and I replied saying he'd have to bring an iron. Had he actually expected me to remember a random chemistry class that happened years ago? But then I did remember it after all. Meet me at the portal tonight 10 PM was all the message said. I wasted a good amount of time, but I still had some left before I'd have to go out to meet Razor, so I decided to make some lunch. Afterwards I resumed reading my book about the continuing adventures of Sheridan and her exploits in destroying cultural artifacts. Unsurprisingly, it came to a happy end with the evil organization stopped in its tracks, at least for now. I thought the ending was deliberately left open for ambiguity, but when I turned the page and saw the advertisement for the next entry in this apparently long-running series of books, I realised all of this had been a ploy to set up the inevitable sequel. Luckily, the disappointment didn't last long as I had to get going to meet Razor at the portal. When I got outside, it didn't seem quite as dark as it had when I arrived yesterday. I might have had difficulties finding my way, otherwise, but I could still see the portal in the distance. Eventually, I arrived at my destination. Razor was already standing idly by the portal, his fidgeting making it obvious that he had waited just for me. I was already wondering whether you'd get it at all. Well, you didn't make it easy. I legit read like 7 books and wasted 10 minutes of my time. Just look up at the stars. You can see them so clearly here, without all the pollution lingering in the air like back home. Almost as if we were looking right into the face of eternity itself. For so long, humanity thought we'd find aliens out here. Yet after all these years, we found we were still alone in the universe. Turns out we were just not looking in the right place. So what's going on, Razor? Why did you call me here at this time? For one, because we're sending the generator home. Right before I was sent here, they told me they would limit the use of the portal as they couldn't afford to keep it open all the time. In order to keep in contact with us and to enable us to send things over to them, the portal would be open for just a quarter of an hour each day. Sending something back home wasn't really problematic for us since the high energy expenditure associated with sending bigger objects only affected the sender, not the receiver. However, this also meant until all business was concluded in regards to our trade with the PDAs and the generations, we were basically stuck here. As for the other, do you know what this place is? You said something about trouble. How much danger are we in, really? More than enough. I'm afraid this whole place will be gone soon. We better not be here when it happens. What are you talking about? I hoped you'd see it too, but then it took me a while to understand, and I had a head start on you. While he was speaking, my gaze wandered and fixed on some movement nearby. It was hard to make out anything, but I imagined it might have been some wind blowing through the nearby shrubbery. Except for the fact that there was no wind. We're being spied on by a dragon. This might take a while to explain, but we've got the whole night. Razor, look. He turned around to face whatever I was seeing. He squinted hard before he called out. You! How dare you follow me even here? This disturbance came closer until it became clear that it was Maverick. Oh no. Who had hidden nearby to listen in on our conversation. I knew you up to no good. What were you talking about? What are you planning here? Some kind of attack? Wait a minute, there's no reason for it. Don't try to deny it. I heard you both talking about it in the cafe, and I saw the letter. You think I couldn't smell the lemon on it? Pathetic. You have to come with me to the police station now, both of you. Come on, I think you're overreacting. Whoa! Razor! That's... Why? In the dragon's side, I could see the wound where the bullet had penetrated his hide, a trickle of blood staining his dark scales and the earth beneath. Razor used the opportunity to run off in some direction. I wasn't sure which. I frantically scanned my surroundings looking for Razor, though he had already vanished into the darkness. What was I supposed to do? Run away as well? Help Maverick? I was just a diplomat and I had no idea what was happening. Yep, I was expecting the dragon to attack as well. Suddenly the dragon whipped around, hitting me in the guts with his thick tail. I was lifted off the ground briefly before I felt the impact of my body hitting the ground hard enough that my vision blurred almost instantly. A deafening roar battered my ears. Was this his cry for help? I could barely move, but I found it better not to try, as to not startle the wounded dragon more than he already was. It certainly would have ended badly for me if he tried anything. I heard him take a few unsure steps before he lay down on the ground, panting. I'm still watching you, you know, and you'd better not move for your own good. If I have to get up again and come after you in this condition, I can promise you I won't be nice. It took a few minutes of listening to his laboured breathing before someone arrived. It was two dragons, the first I recognised as Sebastian, the other one I didn't know. I heard Sebastian and Maverick exchange a few words when the stocky fellow approached me. Ooh. Hey kid, you alright? Still feeling a little dizzy. I'm Bryce. Bryce. I can't even get the names right! I'm Bryce, the chief of police in this town. Can you tell me what happened? I mean, both of these are true. Who do I out? I'm kind of suspicious of both of them, because Razor's kind of making a big deal about stuff rather quickly. And Maverick he's kind of snoopy. I might just say I'm not sure. I don't know who to out. Is that so? His face was stern and seemingly lost in thought as I overheard Sebastian's conversation. Yeah, but you're the flyer on duty. We probably won't find him now. Not here in the darkness at any rate. Well, that's just brilliant. What do you think, Chief? Smams, can you walk? Yeah, I think so. Alright, Sebastian, take Smams to the apartment. Get us some help here for Maverick, and then we'll look for Razor. Right on. Come on, Smams, I'll help you up. So, that took a bit of an interesting turn. I was still shaken by the events I had witnessed when I arrived at my apartment. Not knowing anything better to do, I soon fell into a deep slumber. So things kind of escalated quickly. The next day I woke with many questions lingering in my head. I considered calling someone from the police department to ask about Razor and Maverick, but in the end I decided against doing so as I was sure they would contact me if they had anything to tell me. I knew it was no use worrying about it for now, so I settled for starting another book. It didn't take very long though before the doorbell rang. Did Bryce, the chief of police, take it upon himself to escort me today? Oh, it's you again. Are you surprised? No, but I guess it'll mean bad news. Afraid so. How are you holding up? Better than yesterday, that's for sure. Let's go for a walk then, shall we? Sure. This time I was taking along a different route than yesterday, and I was quite sure there was more to this than just taking a walk. I'll just go ahead and guess you didn't find Razor. Yeah, we hoped he would have come back on his own by now. Do you have any idea where he might be? Maybe you mentioned some sort of place in particular that holds some meaning to him? No, not really. We didn't get a chance to talk much at all yesterday before. There's that too. I have no idea why Razor would have done anything like that. I had the impression that they weren't very fond of each other, but this... How is he, by the way? Oh, Maverick is doing fine, but there is plenty of blame to go around. You're right, they didn't particularly like each other. In his statement, Maverick says he suspected Razor of planning some sort of attack. Do you know anything about that? No, he only told me something was going to happen, not that he was planning anything. At least that was the impression I got. He's suspecting you too, by the way. That you both planned this all from the beginning. No, that wouldn't make sense. Actually, none of this is making any sense. Why would we go through all the lengths of our agreement only to jeopardize it by doing something like this? You even already have our PDAs, and we don't have much to show for it yet. If we had any nefarious plans, this wouldn't have been a very good idea. You have a good point. I believe you, but from our side we only have Maverick's word on the whole matter. After all, he was the one who spent the most time with Razor since he arrived here. But even then, he didn't really have any reason to follow you yesterday, and his behaviour was completely out of line. I'm just glad you came out fine. If he wasn't on mandatory sick leave, he would be suspended right now. We'll have to wait until this whole thing is over before we decide what to do with him. I can assure you this won't be taken lightly. Where I came from, this kind of attack on a diplomat would be classified as an act of war punishable by death. I mean, technically true. These are all technically true. I'm not gonna bring up war and death punishments because it's still only my second day here. I clicked on it! I bumped the button by accident! I meant to move my mouse up, but I slipped and clicked the button. Is that so? We still got quite a lot on our hands now though. We have a wounded dragon and a missing human. This could lead to a diplomatic crisis. Maybe Razor will show up soon and we can get all of this behind us. I hope so too. I really wouldn't want to jeopardize anything over this unfortunate incident. Yeah, how about we both just keep quiet about this whole thing for now? After all, I don't think any of us wants our people panicking about this already, right? Eventually we arrived at the police station, where the chief took my formal statement in regards to yesterday's events. He asked me about Razor and Maverick too. Not that I know much of anything that preceded yesterday's events, or the mysterious catastrophe that Razor had mentioned. Afterwards he thanked me, and left to file my statement while I sat by his table. When he returned, he was approached by someone who seemed to have urgent news. A lot of talking between the two ensued that I couldn't make out from my position. This went on for a bit until Bryce returned to me. Afraid I have some more bad news for you. Razor has now officially become a murder suspect. Oh, we're headed to the crime scene and hoped you'd come with us. Me? A crime scene? I don't really know much about forensics. This is picking up quickly. Oh man, this is already getting interesting. It's just that you're the only link to Razor we have. Consider what he said would happen to us. It's in all our interest that we find him as soon as possible, and if he has anything to do with it, you might be able to help us find him. I mean, he is the only human with a weapon after all. I didn't take a gun. Your cooperation would certainly be appreciated, and would be a nice gesture to show us that you're trustworthy in the eyes of those who might think otherwise after what happened yesterday. Yeah, I'll help. I suppose I don't really have much choice here, but you're right. We've got to find Razor. If that's what it takes, then I'll do it. Very well, let us go then. On our way to the crime scene, he tried to prepare me for what would come. I had studied biology, so I was familiar with the sight of dead animals. Asking myself how similar this would be, I wondered if my reaction would be any different if it wasn't a dragon, but a human corpse I would be seeing. When we arrived, we were met by Sebastian, who gave us an overview of the whole situation. This morning the victim was found by a delivery flyer for a restaurant. Blood loss from multiple wounds were likely the cause of death. Forensics was already here, so feel free to poke around. A few paces in front of us, the unfortunate victim lay on the ground, covered by a sheet that concealed the body, but not of the large red stain beneath. We approached, while Sebastian went off to deter any curious onlookers. I know it won't be pretty, and I'm sorry for putting you through this, but you know what's at stake here. Just remember what I told you, and you should be fine. Alright, are you ready? Okay, wow, this is more than just a gun. He actually... What did he do? Well, he's definitely dead. Well, if the slash on the throat is enough to go by, let's just say this will be your test, and tell me what you can deduce from what you see. Give it your best shot. Investigation start. Oh! 2 wings, 2 legs, just like the waitress in the cafe. About as big as a human lengthwise, if not slightly taller. The wingspan would certainly look impressive at that size. The wounds are kinda hard to miss. True, but what are they telling you? Oh, definitely inflicted with a sharp implement, yes. Definitely wasn't a gun. They are clean cuts like from a knife or another sharp implement. Ugh. That is true, but why does this matter? It could have been Razor. Yes, dragons don't use knives, but they have claws. Let's go someone with hands. To either use claws or to wield a weapon. Only those of us who walk on two legs would have the proper dexterity to wield a knife effectively. Most other dragons would probably just bite instead. Of course, this rules out most of the bigger dragons and flyers. But then Razor still has his... what was it called again? You mean his gun? Yeah, if he was him, why would he kill someone with a knife other than just use his gun on him? Didn't want to make any noise, I mean, fair enough. He did not want to make any noise. After all, he ran away from Maverick, trying to hide from the police. Something as loud as a gunshot would have easily given away his position and alerted others in the area. Right, that could be a good reason. By the way, which wound do you think was the lethal one? The neck. That's right, if all the blood from it wasn't a giveaway, this is a stab wound. Characterized by a rather small footprint, you can tell it's also the deepest one. What else do you see? It's a lot of blood. No duh. He had AIDS! What the frick? He died here. Else there would have been a trail we could follow. Spiders also suggest this is where they fought. That's true. Unfortunately, it doesn't help with determining who the perpetrator is. Objection! Excuse me. Sorry, I just always wanted to say that. Go on, please. What about the blood on his muzzle? Oh, you tell me. He is a vampire! Oh my gosh. It's clear either this one could also make sense. But why would it be around his lips? Might be the perpetrator's blood. Yes, that is true. I expect forensics already took a sample of it, so it might already help us determine who the perpetrator is. And I think that's about everything. Alright, that was interesting. Although some of the options were a bit random. You know what, kid? I'm impressed. Maybe we should have you around more often. Hey Chief, do you still need the witness here for anything? Sebastian approached with the dragon who had discovered the body earlier. I recognized her as Adine, the waitress from the cafe. She seemed distraught, which given the situation wasn't very surprising. I don't think so. Take her to the department, get her statement written up, and that should be it. Sure thing. Alright miss, we're going to take you to the department. Of course. When she spotted me, however, her composure brightened visibly. Oh, it's the human. I have a name, you know. Actually, I don't. You never told me it. It's Smams. What are you even doing here? Do you work for our police now? It's just a hobby. Guess so. Doesn't sound very convincing. I'm not quite convinced either. By the way, I didn't know you also did deliveries. I do a bit of everything, really. That's nice. I really liked my scrambled eggs yesterday. You like it so much, why didn't you take our number? We could deliver something to you next time if you don't want to come in. This small talk is weird. I mean, we're right next to a murder and we're talking about scrambled eggs. What do we do now? I suppose we'll head off too, unless... Oh no. What is it? Hello! We've got a violent homicide and of course nobody from the department tells me. I have to find out from a neighbour who wanted to ask me about it. Good thing rumours travel fast, eh? Of course nobody told you. You're on sick leave. Mandatory sick leave, I might add. I'm not here in any official capacity, you see. I am merely enjoying a curative walk in the fresh air and happened to come across you by accident. Sure. What do you want? I don't want anything. I just find it interesting that no one tells me about this, but the prime suspect's buddy can mess with the investigation. I see how it is. I know what you were thinking, but don't jump to conclusions here. I don't need to jump to conclusions. I think the dead body we found says it all. You already have an attitude problem, you know. If you weren't on sick leave, you'd be suspended right now for attacking Smurfs yesterday. Do you even have any idea what kind of repercussions this could have on us all? Me? Attack Smurfs? As far as I can see, I'm the only one who's injured here. Besides, I'm so sorry for apparently being the only one who's doing his damn job. Right, let's all just sit idly while the suspect's on the loose and planning his next move. You know, whatever it was Razor was talking about, he was going to tell me just before you showed up yesterday. I don't need to hear you, of all people, belittling me about this. What's your problem? If anything, I want to find him just as much as you do. Don't compare yourself to me. Your words mean nothing. Enough. You shouldn't even be here, so you'd better go now and get some rest before I have to take disciplinary action. Fine, but when we find him, you'll see I was right. If I have to prove it myself, so be it. Maverick's got a bit of an attitude. Can he even just do his own investigation like that? Well, as long as he doesn't interfere with us, we can't really stop him from doing things in his own free time. I see. I suspect he won't adhere to the standards of performing an unbiased investigation, though. He has already made up his mind. It's clear to me he won't be looking for facts, just for evidence, to support his own view in order to prove it to us or himself. Who knows? He's always been like that, always something to prove. We'll have to be careful. He'll be looking for Razor soon enough. Just hope we find Razor before he does. Don't worry, Razor will turn up eventually. I surely hope so. All things considered, I had to admit that it remained a possibility that Maverick was right. But could the Razor I knew really be a murderer? You know what, if you think of something that might help with the investigation, or if you need anything else, just call me. I will. Well, I think we're done here. Let's go. Bryce let me back to the apartment. I guess there wasn't really much for me to do in the meantime, as I was spared by the more arduous parts of the investigation. Maybe I should have been glad about this, although I now had an afternoon to fill. Let's save that. I've been recording for an hour and a half, so I think that's enough for this episode. Again, visual novel, so it'll be longer videos, just to get through all the different content, just because I feel like having I don't know how long this is, so 50, 100, whatever episodes, and also the content needs to get going, so yeah. Anyway, this was really cool. I'm enjoying it so far. Very different to what I'm used to playing. Hopefully this was an interesting video for you as well. I have no idea how I'm going to edit it, because this is very different to the normal game content I record. Hopefully it's interesting, and if you have any suggestions, give me some feedback. I don't know how long this episode's going to be either, so hopefully I can cut it down to something reasonable. But again, with the amount that was covered and the fact that I've been recording for 90 minutes, I might have to shorten next episode. I don't know. This is a very experimental series at this point. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe if you already haven't done so, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!